I came up with the little idea of green light education just as an opposite of red light. Red light education to me meaning people who keep doing the same thing over and over again in the classroom, while kids have changed a great deal. So when I said green light, I didn't mean anything in particular, I just meant try something different. So how about getting them up and out of their seats? How about getting them talking a little bit more? How about turning on music in the background? How about having kids teach things sometimes? How about kids drawing creative things? And so as long as a teacher has lots of options, I think, and they keep trying different things, they're more green light. There's an expression I use when I'm trying to get teachers to be more aware of what's happening in the rooms called teach people, not content. Does content matter? Of course it does, but it's an awareness of what the student is going through that leads to successful teaching strategies. So a teacher maybe in a math classroom would have all of this information to get through with the kids, but if you're not aware of what period of the day it is, have they listened long enough, do they need to talk? These are the kind of things that we have to keep our attention on, number one. If we just see the classroom as I have 45 minutes to talk and explain, then I see a lot of trouble coming from that. So when I tell teachers, teach people, not content, it really means take your content and see it through the eyes of the students that are learning it. There are a number of qualities that I would certainly call to mind if I said what makes an effective teacher. One of them would be a willingness to just try anything. Because I think we work with such a diverse population right now in classrooms that a lesson that worked last year may not work this year. Are they willing to roll the dice and just see what happens? So a willingness to explore and learn would be number one. The second thing would be an awareness of what kids are going through. So are we constantly talking to the students, finding out what's of interest to them, and engaging them in some way that makes it relevant to them, the information that they're learning. So willingness to try things, willingness to be aware of what they're going through and adjusting our teaching strategies, those would be big ones. And another one, I think that would just come to top of my mind, is teach in short bursts. And what that means to me is, good teachers know that the brain can only take information for so long. So what do? We give them 5 minutes, we give them 8 minutes, we give it 10 minutes, and then we break it up with something in between so the brain can take that information and hold on to it and get ready for a new set of information. One of the great things about my books is I've written several on my own, but I like asking teachers their opinions. Because at this stage in my career, I'm a consultant. I'm out there, I'm in classrooms some, but not all the time. So for green light classrooms, and then for high five classrooms, sparking student synapses, a number of these books that I'm listing, I went and worked with a professional in that grade level. I like talking to teachers and finding out what's working for them. The Green Light Classrooms book, for example, has about 60 lessons that when I speak in front of teachers, I always say, I didn't come up with this stuff. This is what real teachers are doing in their classroom. So I'm always looking at classrooms. I feel like Johnny Appleseed right now. Johnny Appleseed traveled around and I kept spreading the seeds, right? So I go into a classroom, I find a good idea and I say, do you mind? May I share this with other teachers? And sometimes we take pictures of kids doing it, or sometimes I just take the written thing that they've done and I show it to people. So a lot of my ideas come from very practical things that teachers are doing in order to be more effective with the kids. I do sometimes get asked, what's the most surprising thing that I learned while writing a book about education? To me, it's that the book isn't written in advance in my head. Writing a book is a process. So I take an idea, I see a picture in my head of how this might be useful to a teacher, and I start putting it down to words. And it's only then that the idea actually comes alive. I mean, I don't have a paragraph already in my head that I'm just trying to type up. I kind of say, there's the idea, and then you put words to it, and you find out if it's real or not through the words that are expressed. So I often felt like, when I saw other people did their books, I thought they must have just thought of that all in advance and they just wrote it down. It's not. You start writing and the ideas come. I always want to make my presentations as practical and as usable as possible. So if people walked out of the room today and they said, I need to let my students move more, physically get engaged in what's happening in the classroom, I would be thrilled. So I gave them a bunch of examples about how to be moving around in the classroom for a purpose, so they learn better as they're moving. I would also love them to kind of let kids draw. I mean, just using visuals is so much better on the brain than using pages and pages of notes just in words. Another one that I like to have them do is let kids talk more. And so once again, look at those themes. Let them talk, let them move, let them draw. Those to me are the bottom line things, and my goal is to give them lots of ways that they could do it. But just as I was in there a moment ago, one of the teachers walked out and said, "Oh, I have 3 things I can do to get my students out of their seats and moving around." And I thought, I've done my job. If I had a magic wand, it could change one thing in education, it would be our emphasis and focus on testing. There's far too much testing going on. What happens with standardized testing is it forces kids into boxes. It assumes that all kids learn at the same pace and should know the same things at this particular time. And yet anyone who's a parent, who's been around kids for long enough, know that some kids learn stuff earlier than others. Testing is valid as a way to find out where they are, but if we said, okay, they didn't do well on that test, so they're falling behind, and I don't agree with any of that sort of stuff. So some tests are great. I'd love to see us just focus on, here's an idea. It used to be that a teacher got a group of kids and they said, here's your job. You have 9 months to move this group of kids from where they are forward. That's not the goal anymore. And what it is you have to make them reach this particular standard, this particular way, and that makes a teacher not have much choice, not much freedom in there. I would much rather go back to, let's turn it over to the teacher, and you have freedom and you have choice. Did you move those kids forward in their learning in this year? That would be so cool.